Hey, this is Marietta Adams, and this is my Module 1 response, and I decided to make a screencast-o-matic of some slides to organize my thoughts. So first of all, I live in Lafayette, Louisiana, and I have a family with a 5-year-old boy who's in kindergarten and a daughter who is 3. My teaching experience includes 3 years in Dallas ISD, where I taught in a high-poverty school. And then after that, I taught abroad in Kaohsiung, Taiwan, and taught English for a year. Then we moved to Colorado, and I taught in Breckenridge for a couple of years. And then about 4.5 years ago, I started working at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette as a pre-service teacher educator. One of my main research interests is lesson study, and I have been using it as a way to prepare pre-service teachers to enter the field more ready and more focused on student outcomes. And I really hope to continue refining my research objectives with lesson study to be more equity focused. Regarding the article, the myth number 1 is one that I always believed until pretty recently. With enough hard will and hard work, I thought that anyone could be successful, and maybe I think this because of my dad, who came from poverty and had to work really hard to become successful. I think that I need to recognize the supports that have helped him and other people that I know like him, particularly white privilege and social capital. And I need to continue to think about all of the systemic and policy related things that keep people in poverty. Myth number 2 is something that I acknowledge and I have believed earlier on in my life, was that the culture of poverty is where poverty is perpetuated through the learned behaviors and it was difficult to break out of. There's a lot of sensationalized stories that are published, and it seems to be highly celebrated when someone who grew up in poverty makes it or achieves the dream. So it's been a myth that I've kind of believed for a long time until recently. And so as a teacher educator, I'm definitely starting to acknowledge the faults in my own thinking and starting to challenge people's reductionistic comments like his parents don't care or she has a learning disability, so I can't really work with her. And so I'm trying to challenge those as excuses for not being able to teach a child effectively. But I still feel like I'm at like an elementary level of success in that, and I need to work on more sophisticated and convincing ways to initiate discussions or address comments when they arise regarding the myths. I thought that the anchor questions that can be posed to pre-service teachers are very important and really interesting. As someone who became a teacher in high poverty, who began teaching in a high poverty area of Dallas, I know I was not prepared to deal with those challenges that many of my students face, like homelessness and hunger and dirty clothes and no shoes and sleeplessness and very crowded apartments. So at the time, I thought maybe the parents didn't care, that I didn't feel like I knew how to help. But questions such as these would have been really helpful to discuss earlier on in my teacher prep classes, or even as a new teacher. I felt like I didn't have any support and I had no idea how to help anybody. So I am sad to admit that the work was so draining and became detrimental sort of to my health habits. And so as the author stated on page 186, I became hopeless about my abilities to teach them. So I knew I needed to try something new and I needed to learn more. Overall, this whole article in the beginning of this class has been really interesting, and I'm so excited to hear what the rest of the semester is going to be about.